Today, the Matt Walsh Show, the Somali takeover of Minneapolis is worse than we thought, and now the Trump administration is taking steps to address the problem. Also, the Democrat running to represent Nashville in Congress is on tape talking about how much she hates Nashville, which seems like a problem. That's not even close to the craziest thing that she said. Plus, Elon Musk made a small change to X that has led to some major revelations about who is influencing our political dialogue in America and where those people live, which is not in America, I'll tell you that. All of that and more today on the Matt Walsh Show. Our Black Friday deal is here. Right now, Daily Wire Plus annual memberships are 50% off right now, but you can be one of the first to watch the Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin. Join today, dailywire.com/subscribe. People often pick up protein bars assuming they're making a quick and healthy decision, but if you've ever taken the time to actually read the label, you were probably surprised to see how much sugar is in these bars. Finding a protein bar that tastes good and is made with quality ingredients might feel like a more daunting task than actually working out. So let me save you the time and the energy by telling you about Equip Foods Prime Bar. Prime Bar is the first ever grass-fed beef protein bar. Prime Bar is made with only 11 clean ingredients, including collagen, beef tallow, and colostrum. It's naturally sweetened with dates and honey and gives you 20 grams of protein without any guilt. I've tried a lot of protein bars in the market, and none of them taste good. In fact, none of them even taste like real food. They taste artificial, kind of strange. But Prime Bar actually tastes like real food because it is real food, and it's good. If you want to try the cleanest protein bar in the market that already sold out once, go to equipfoods.com/Matt Walsh and use code Matt Walsh at checkout to get 25% off one-time purchases or 40% off your first subscription order for a limited time. That's equipfoods.com/Matt Walsh. Use code Matt Walsh at checkout. When it comes to immigration enforcement by the Trump administration, especially for people living in the Midwest, there's been one decision that has stood out. And it's clearly been a deliberate decision for whatever reason. For the most part, the government has left illegal alien Muslim populations alone in places like Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis. Now, admittedly, there's not much hard data on this, but intuitively, you can tell. You can go online and find hundreds of videos of ICE raids in Los Angeles or Texas, but very conspicuously, you won't find really any of that coming from Little Mogadishu, which by some conservative estimates is home to tens of thousands of illegal aliens. There's another way to tell that immigration enforcement has been soft in these areas. They have not been rioting. They haven't been surrounding ICE agents chanting Allah Akbar like they're reenacting Black Hawk Down. Instead, Muslims in these communities have mostly been targeting, as we saw last week, white conservative activists and journalists who dare to venture into the no-go zone that they've established. They're not afraid of immigration enforcement. They're emboldened like conquerors because that's what they've done. They've conquered. Whatever the administration's strategy has been here, it does appear to be changing, at least to an extent. Now, last week, as you may remember, I called for hate crime charges to be brought against a man who punched a white conservative activist in Dearborn. And within hours, Harmeet Dillon, who runs the DOJ Civil Rights Division, responded to that, saying that she would begin an investigation. And then shortly after that, the president announced a major change, one that we've been calling for again and again for several months. He ended the temporary protected status for Somalis in the United States. Now, as you have heard me talk about, this is a designation that's been in place for more than 3 decades, and it shields Somalis in many cases from being deported back to Somalia on the theory that the country is so dysfunctional that it would be inhumane to send them back. Now, to be clear, in most other cases, temporary protected status is awarded after some, natural disaster, like an earthquake or a mudslide. And the idea is that, well, we're not going to send people back to an unstable environment like that, where everything's on fire or is flooded. But in Somalia's case, there was no devastating earthquake or mudslide or anything like that. No, it's just that there's a lot of Somalis attempting to govern themselves. And that's such a disaster that for more than 30 years, it's been the official policy of the U.S. government that we should not send Somalis back to their own country. Somali governance is equivalent to a, magnitude 20 earthquake. And it's just as catastrophic. Essentially, what we've said is that We can't send Somalians back to Somalia because there are so many Somalians there. It would be cruel to force Somalians to live with Somalians. So instead, we'll just force Americans to live with them. Now, of course, the appropriate response in this scenario is to keep Somalis as far away from the U.S. as possible. We don't want them establishing an enclave in this country because inevitably it'll be just as dysfunctional as the country they fled. But for many years now, it's been the policy of the U.S. to pretend otherwise and to give Somalis yet another host country to destroy. The fact that the Trump administration is changing this policy after so many years is a clear signal that they're thinking about going into Muslim communities, particularly Somali communities, and enforcing immigration law, as well as civil rights law, which we should have been all along. This is a crackdown that's long overdue. And it's more urgent than ever because at this point, law enforcement in these communities, law enforcement is now working on behalf of the foreign criminals in cities like Minneapolis. The leaders of major police departments are now far more worried about offending their Muslim overlords than actually enforcing law. We've already talked about how in Dearborn, conservatives can be physically attacked by Muslims right in front of police, and the police will do nothing. But the situation is even worse in Minneapolis, where the chief of police, Brian O'Hara, just apologized to the Somali community for pointing out that they're committing a lot of crimes. So this may be the first documented case of a police chief begging for forgiveness simply for observing the fact that crime is taking place in his city. So here's what Chief Brian O'Hara said in an interview with a local radio station. This was the observation that outraged the Somali community, as reported by Alpha News. Quote, Chief O'Hara said in the interview, groups of East African kids that are coming from surrounding communities, and not just one community, kind of all over the place, are coming to the area armed and ready for a fight. They aren't the poor kids from Minneapolis that are our residents. These are kids coming down in mommy's Mercedes-Benz to Dinkytown. Now, what he's saying is obviously true. Nobody disputes its accuracy. Somalis from East Africa are invading communities in Minneapolis and committing serious crimes. That's happening. But Somalis in Minneapolis decided that this statement simply could not stand. That's because large Somali communities in the U.S. are effectively criminal enterprises like the mafia. There's widespread awareness in these communities about the fraud and robberies they commit, as we'll discuss in detail in a second, and they understand that in order to minimize any undesired attention, they need to band together and shut down any suggestion from anywhere that they're engaging in criminal activity. There's a code of silence that they obey themselves and they enforce on everybody else. After all, the easiest way to conceal a criminal enterprise is to make sure that no one's allowed to talk about it. It's been known for a long time that Somalis operate like this, and it's also been widely understood that politicians in Minneapolis are going along with it. I mean, the mayor, as we all know, is not ashamed to pander to Somalis and BLM and so on. He certainly never critiqued Somalis, nor would he ever dream of doing so. That said, even with this background in mind, the police chief just took things to another level. He didn't simply pander to Somalis or turn a blind eye to their crimes. He actually went on camera and apologized for making a factually accurate statement about criminal activity in Minneapolis. Accompanied by a translator, the police chief apologized for doing his job, for informing the public about criminal activity, and for enforcing the law against Somalis, God forbid. If any video justifies a federal takeover of law enforcement in Minneapolis, well, I would say that it's this one. Watch.
community hadda caruurteena inaan garab istaagno chiefkana waa u baahannahay annagana waa isku baahannahay
عشان oo kamid ah odayaasha community-ga Soomaaliyeed iyo waalidiinta magaaladan degan ilmana ku koriyay.
The Somali community here in Minneapolis has been welcoming and has shown love towards me, and I appreciate it. Over the last 3 years, we have been working together to try and address some of the real serious problems that we have in our community. We have to be honest at times with the problems that we're having in our community, and we need our community to help us fix those problems together because it's real and it's serious. At the same time, if people have taken anything that I have said out of context in a way that's caused harm, I apologize and I'm sorry for that because that's not my intention at all.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I noticed that your community is committing a lot of crimes. I'm so sorry that I noticed that you guys are coming here and committing a lot of crimes and destroying our communities. You know, the real victim obviously is you. Because you had to listen to me noticing the fact that you're doing this thing. I'm so sorry. I apologize profusely. Now, he says we have to be honest about what's happening, and then in the same breath, he apologizes for being honest about what's happening. Looks like a hostage video because, you know, that's exactly what it is. After seeing this, is there anyone who seriously believes that any law enforcement official in Minnesota, from the Attorney General on down, has any interest in arresting and prosecuting Somalis when they commit crimes? I mean, the guy looks absolutely petrified. And all he did was make a factually accurate statement. He didn't even arrest anyone. Think about how pathetic it is. You've got people coming here from a third world country. These are people who cannot govern themselves. They cannot establish their own functional communities. Okay, and they come here. They have no power. They have no influence. There's no reason for us to do anything for them, to give them anything, or even to let them here in the first place. And yet they're allowed in, and all the people who are supposed to be in charge just fall to their knees, prostrate themselves in deference to these third worlders. But if somehow you think law and order still exists in Minneapolis, you know, maybe this will be a wake-up call. In fact, here's another one. This is a sheriff in Minnesota. This, again, is almost hard to believe, but it's real. Watch.
markaan haddaan askarnahay Soomaaliyeed ininka inii shaqeynaa habeenii maalinba ininka inii taaganahay ma fahanteen horta sida ogtihiinba wadankan anaga qaxootiyan imaanay askar Soomaaliya ma jirin marka hadda anaga markiina la haygareeyay waxay noqotay inaan dadkeena u shaqeyno dadkii dhaqankii ma fahmeynaa luqadii ma fahmeynaa culture-kii ma fahmeynaa marka qofka kale ma taqaana ajnabiga abadaanka iyo anaga waa kala duwanahay because qofkii gaabkii waxa we build that bridge kaas ma fahantay marka insha Allah waa mahadsantiin again ogaada askari kasta oo Soomaaliya dalka iyo dabadaba ininku inii shaqeeyaa habeenkii marka hurudaan iyo marka ma taqaana achievetaanba ininka inii taaganahay.
Now, if you're listening to the audio podcast and you don't speak Somali, I could tell you that according to the translation, the Minnesota sheriff refers to white police officers as foreigners. He says he's working for Somalis and understands Somalis better than those foreign officers ever could. And, you know, of course, I have to offer my usual disclaimer here, which is that I have no idea how accurate the translation is. I don't speak Somali. But that's not my problem because every single public official in the state should be speaking English. And if you decide to speak a foreign language, then we're going to take our best guess as to what it is that you're saying. And any confusion or mistranslation is totally your fault 100%. But I do think that's what he actually said. Now, what's important to understand about clips like this is that as unacceptable as they obviously are, the actual problem is much, much worse. What these clips signify is that the Somali takeover of Minnesota is now so pervasive that they're not even pretending to hide it anymore. If sheriffs and the chief of police are willing to pledge their allegiance to Somalia on camera, then there's no chance whatsoever that Somalis are actually being prosecuted for committing serious crimes. You know, maybe the DOJ will catch some fraudsters here and there, but the vast majority of these crimes are going completely unpunished, and everybody knows it. But just in case there was any doubt, a few days ago, Ryan Thorpe and Chris Ruffo published an article in City Journal highlighting the extent of the rampant fraud in Minneapolis. And it's so over the top and brazen that, again, it sounds almost fake, but it's not. Once again, this is real. Quote, autism claims to Medicaid in Minnesota have skyrocketed in recent years from 3 million in 2018 to 54 million in 2019. 77 million in 2020, 183 million in 2021, 279 million in 2022, and 399 million in 2023. Meanwhile, the number of autism providers in the state spiked from 41 to 328 over the same period, with many in the Somali community establishing their own autism treatment centers, citing the need for culturally appropriate programming. By the time the fraud scheme was exposed, 1 in 16 Somali 4-year-olds in the state had reportedly been diagnosed with autism, a rate more than triple the state average. Yes, claims for autism treatment in Minnesota, treatment that was mostly administered by Somalis and which was then reimbursed by federal taxpayers, spiked from $3 million to $399 million in the span of just 5 years. And this is just one of their scams. I mean, they're scamming everything they can get their hands on, from COVID food programs to SNAP to the Paycheck Protection Program. And we all know that even when the DOJ catches a handful of Somalis who are involved, there's no way to actually recover the money. The few Somalis who are eventually sentenced to prison, in all likelihood, won't be there for very long. By the way, there's also a very good comprehensive analysis of Somali fraud in Minnesota, written by Armin Rosen in the publication County Highway. It's one of the better explanations of how Minnesota officials are concealing all this fraud, which you should also look into. None of this is surprising, though, because once again, this is why we say import the third world, become the third world. Because the thing that nobody wants to say is that the reason why third world countries are the way they are is because third world people are the way they are. Okay, at the end of the day, your country is a reflection of its people. Every country is, when it comes down to it. And so Somali is totally dysfunctional and corrupt because scam and frauds, piracy, this is part of the lifestyle, part of the culture. Bring it over here, you get the same stuff. The City Journal article highlights another important dimension of the story which needs to be addressed, which is that Somalis in Minnesota are sending a lot of this stolen money back home. They're taking the money that you pay to the IRS, or that the IRS takes from you anyway, and they're shipping it to Somalia. And in some cases, they're literally putting the cash in suitcases and flying it overseas. Now, these are called remittances, and as we discussed last week, millions of dollars in remittances are apparently going to Al-Shabaab, which is a terrorist group linked to Al-Qaeda. Quote, the Somali fraud rings have sent huge sums of remittances or money transfers from Minnesota to Somalia. According to reports, an estimated 40% of households in Somalia get remittances from abroad. In 2023 alone, the Somali diaspora sent back $1.7 billion, more than the Somali government's budget for that year. Significant funds were being sent from America to Al-Shabaab networks in Somalia. Whether the money was intended for Al-Shabaab or not, they were taking a cut. Now, one obvious step to address this problem, which the Trump administration should take immediately, is to raise the tax on remittances to 10,000%. Certainly, at least for remittances going to Somalia, which really it should just be across the board. You know, if you want to come here and send money out of this country to another country to help their economy, well, you should have to pay a hefty price for that. Now, currently the tax is something like 1%. It's absurdly low. And especially since we're clearly being robbed to the tune of billions of dollars, that needs to change. We need an emergency tax on remittances immediately. We also need to ramp up deportations and denaturalization proceedings, and that's going to trigger a legal battle, but it's the one we need to fight. The Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, is already vowing to take the Trump administration to court in order to keep as many Somalis in this country as possible. Quote, Trump's announcement of the termination of Somali TPS holders in Minnesota is legally problematic. While a president does have a lot of authority to designate and revoke TPS, he cannot legally wield that power to discriminate against an ethnic group or target a state, like Minnesota. This ain't over, says Keith Ellison. Yes, it's legally problematic to end an extraordinary carve-out, which we've awarded to Somalis for no reason at all, for more than 30 years. This is what always happens when you give any concessions or favors to anyone, including foreign nations, especially foreign nations. Instantaneously it becomes an entitlement. Like they had no right to it to begin with, but you gave it to them, and now that they have it, they have a right to it. That's kind of that's the idea. They'll sue you if you try to end it. You know, their lawyers will claim that you violated the Constitution. Right, you know that thing in the Constitution that guarantees Somalians the right to come here and not be deported? Yeah, it violates that clause in the Constitution. But if you ask Somalis themselves, ironically enough, they'll drop the pretense. At this point, Somalis are basically daring us to deport them. This was Ilhan Omar's response after Trump terminated Somalia's temporary protected status. Quote, "I'm a citizen, and so are the majority of Somalis in America. Good luck celebrating a policy change that really doesn't have much impact on the Somalis you love to hate. We are here to stay, rather." Now, notice she doesn't even refer to her own people as Americans. She admits that they're Somalis in America. Kind of tells you everything you need to know. They're foreign invaders in our country. They've taken over local law enforcement. They've taken over the state attorney general's office. They're attacking conservatives in the street. And now, the moment the Trump administration suggests that laws might actually be enforced in Little Mogadishu, what they're saying is, come get us, basically. They're daring us. Well, for once, I think we should give Ilhan Omar and her Somali countrymen exactly what they're asking for. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. Grand Canyon University is an affordable private Christian university based in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, and it's one of the largest universities in the country. GCU is widely praised for its culture of community and impact. They boast 369 academic programs, with over 300 of those being available online. Join a nationwide community of learners who are redefining online education through GCU's 100% online MBA program. At GCU, you can learn about ethical entrepreneurship and how to scale your business to serve your community. In addition to federal grants and aid, GCU's online students received nearly $161 million in institutional scholarships in 2024. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu/myoffer to see the scholarships that you may qualify for. There are a lot of perks to owning a home versus renting from a landlord, but one of the things that most people dread about buying and owning a home are the expensive repairs that are bound to happen. Regular homeowners insurance doesn't cover everyday repairs like plumbing failures and electrical issues, leaving you on your own to cover the repairs. But now there is another option called HomeServe. For as little as $4.99 a month, you've got backup when things break. Instead of frantically searching for a contractor in a panic, you could already be on the phone with HomeServe's 24/7 hotline, getting someone scheduled to help out. HomeServe has a lot of different plans to choose from that cover different things. Just pick a plan that fits your budget. When something goes wrong, all you have to do is call HomeServe, and they will handle it. They've been doing this for over 20 years with a network of 2,600 local contractors. Help protect your home and your wallet with HomeServe. Plans start at just $4.99 a month. Go to homeserve.com, find the plan that's right for you. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range from $4.99 to $11.99 a month. Your first year, terms apply on covered repairs. Okay, Afton Bain is the name of a human, apparently. Actually, it's a woman who's running as the Democrat nominee in Tennessee's 7th district, congressional district special election, which is, that's Nashville. Okay, Nashville is the 7th district. Nobody ever heard of this person until a few days ago when she started going viral for all the wrong reasons in the lead up to the election. And before we get to the viral stuff, here's a report from the Daily Wire, which just gives you an idea of what kind of person this is. Afton Bain, the Democratic nominee running in Tennessee's 7th congressional district special election, repeatedly said in recent years that she would be willing to get arrested for abortion advocacy. Bain, a state representative seeking to replace Representative Mark Green, who resigned from office earlier this year, is running against Republican Matt Van Epps, who's been endorsed by President Donald Trump. She said in a May 22nd conversation with the Tennessee Holler, "What is the positive if there's a silver lining? What this does not mean for Tennessee is that groups on the ground will continue to provide training in terms of self-managed abortions. And so instead of going to a doctor, because we won't have any doctors that provide abortions, how do you do it at home? We'll continue to figure out how to get abortion pills to people so the organizing does not stop just because Roe is overturned. I think most importantly, we'll see the increased criminalization of people seeking abortions and those assisting them. So I anticipate lots of bail funds for women seeking abortions, getting caught getting abortions, women like myself that plan to travel with women getting arrested, and we'll also see increased surveillance, policing, and fear." So she's a pro-abortion extremist, willing to get herself arrested for the sake of helping women kill their children. But really, it has nothing to do with other women. You know, this is not some kind of perverse generosity on her part. This is you know, the only reason she feels so strongly about the issue is that she wants to protect her own right to kill her own children, which I assume she's probably already done. You know, a woman like this almost certainly has multiple abortions under her belt. I don't know that for a fact, just my own theory. I'm just theorizing. So she's a vile creature who loves baby murder. We know that. She's also, of course, a big fan of BLM and violent crime and lawlessness. So if you live in Nashville and you're deciding who to vote for, I mean, if you like crime, if crime is your thing, if you're really into crime and you like for your community to be less safe and you want to be more worried about, your kids and their safety, then she's the person for you because she's a big fan of crime and doesn't like enforcing the law. But here she is on MSNBC over the weekend. MSNBC, of all places, calls her out on this. So I don't know what's going on over there, but listen to this.
Representative, in 2020, you made some tweets that have since been deleted that were very critical of police. You said in those since deleted tweets that the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department should be dissolved. Another cheered on a teachers union saying that defund the police should be a requirement for schools reopening. And another saying good morning, especially to the 54% of Americans that believe burning down a police station is justified. 2020 was obviously a very fraught year. Do you still stand by those comments? And if not, is there anything you want to clarify?
I'm not going to engage in cable news talking points, but what I will say is that our communities need solutions. We need local people deciding, solving local problems with local solutions. And that's not the overreach of a federal government or state government of which we are dealing with in Nashville and our cities across the state of Tennessee.
So you don't want to clarify whether you still believe that the police should be defunded?
Once again, I don't remember these tweets, but what I'm saying is that
I'm not asking you if you remember. What is your position today? How's that on this issue?
I mean, once again, I'm here to talk about my race, which is in literally 9 days.
Lord, this woman cannot win. She better not win. And not even because she's a radical leftist mutant who wants to burn down police stations and kill babies and then lies about it when she's called out. I mean, that's the main reason she should not win. But also, she's just not even a good liar. And that's the part that offends me the most. Like, it's one thing to be a soulless con artist, which this woman is. It's another to be so clumsy and unconvincing about it. Just kind of insults your intelligence. And despite her extremely lazy, kind of low energy effort to deflect, she says, I'm not going to get into cable news talking points. Well, it's not a cable news talking point. It's what you said. These are your talking points. But yes, it's true that she has publicly called for the defunding of police. She has endorsed burning down police stations, which, by the way, is a stance that should legally bar her from running for office anyway. Okay, call me crazy, but you should not be allowed to run for office if you have publicly endorsed mob violence against law enforcement officers. Call me crazy, but that's just me. I think there are some things you could say that should disqualify you from being allowed to run for office. And we could debate what those things would be, but this is calling for police stations to be burned down by angry mobs is the kind of thing where that you should not be allowed to run for office. Now, of course, on the flip side, you could say, well, if a community is going to elect somebody like that after they've said that, then you kind of get what's coming to you at that point. So, which is also true. Now, the other thing about Afton is that, and this is not really a surprise based on what we've already seen about her, but she really hates the place that she is running to represent. She's on the record on multiple occasions, actually, talking about how much she hates Tennessee and Nashville in particular. So this video went viral a few days ago. It's actually an audio recording. Here it is. Listen.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music, I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it. Yeah, I'm that girl at the airport that all these bachelorettes are giddy walking out in their two-toned colored Pantone pink shirts, and they walk out and they're like, oh my god, Nashville is so bad!
They're so loud.
Now, I will admit that she's not totally wrong about, I agree with her about the pedal taverns and about the bachelorettes. And if you're not familiar with pedal taverns, by the way, if you're blessed to live in an area where these things don't exist, I'll tell you what they are. Well, they're exactly what they sound like. But pedal taverns are these giant multi-seat bicycles, basically, where tourists can sit and drink overpriced beer while they pedal around the city. So if you drive through Nashville, you're going to find yourself, if you have to go through Nashville as part of your commute, it's going to take longer than it should because you'll be stuck behind a group of 10 drunk people on a giant bicycle pedaling on the street. Now, why do these things exist? Why would anyone do this? I have no idea. I have no clue. I have never found myself drinking a beer and thought to myself, you know what? This would be so much better if I was outside in traffic, breathing exhaust fumes and exercising. I don't know why you would want to combine those four things in particular with a leisure activity. I have no idea. But a lot of people do. And so if you drive through Nashville in the summer, especially, then like 68% of the traffic is comprised of pedal taverns. And that's a real number I just made up. But that's what it feels like anyway. It feels like 68 to 70% of the traffic is nothing but pedal taverns. So people commute. People commute with pedal taverns now. You got like businessmen in suits taking a pedal tavern to the office. That's how bad it's gotten. But that does not vindicate Afton, okay? Because if she had said, hey, Nashville is not as enjoyable of a place as it should be because of all these damn pedal taverns all over the street. I want to run and I want to pass legislation to ban them. What? I'd have no issue with that. Still couldn't vote for her because of all the baby murder, but at least that part of her platform I would agree with. But she's not doing that because she's a compulsive liar and she's a bad one, as we've seen. So here's how she tried to address this controversy. Again, from her own words, this is what she said. And here she is addressing it. Listen.
State Representative Afton Bain here, the Democratic nominee for the 7th Congressional Special Election in Tennessee. For those of you just joining in, I often record segments in my Jeep Wrangler called Wranglin' Time. Yes, there is a theme song, and no, I will not be singing it today. But yes, I will bring it back because I know a lot of you miss it, and you've said I sing well. So I look a little rough. I have bags under my eyes because the Republican eye of Sauron has finally shifted towards moi. And I'm sure you've seen the commercials. I'm sure you've seen the onslaught of ads. And then today, the Republicans decided that they're going to start this narrative that me, the state representative who represents downtown Nashville, doesn't like the city. Now, I always want Nashville to be better, right? I want Nashville to be a place where working people can thrive, right? But sure, I get mad at the Bachelorette sometimes. I get mad at the pedal taverns, right? And you're talking to someone who has cried no less than 10 times in the Country Music Hall of Fame. The girl that just goes to the Ryman to hang out. No, we're not even going to go there. We are so close to winning this race, which is why these rumors are getting more wild.
Wait a second, rumors? But you said it. We just heard you say it. So Afton says on tape, I hate Nashville. Her words, like verbatim. And then she's called out and she says, what? You think I hate Nashville? Are you crazy? I hate Nashville. Wait, it sounds like you just said you hate Nashville. What? You think I hate Nashville? Who told you that? You did? Just now? You just said it? We just heard you say it? But again, if if you line up and vote for someone like this, I mean, it's like the least appealing person. Nothing about her. I mean, from the most at the most shallow level all the way to the stuff that really matters, like everything from her name to just her demeanor, her tone of voice. None of that is appealing. All of that is grating. And then, of course, also she's just a horrible person, and her policies are horrific, and she's a liar and a scumbag. So you line up and vote for somebody like that, then again, you get and you destroy your community. Well, you get what's coming to you at that point. Now, a lot of people think that Congress doesn't do anything. They're not focusing on fixing our problems. Republicans in particular are very frustrated with our GOP-led Congress. I've been frustrated with it. We've talked about it on the show. But if you want to accuse them of never accomplishing anything, well, I'll have you know, they did accomplish one thing. So here's what happened. I believe this was on Friday over at Capitol Hill. Watch.
Just showing this from the Hill right now. This is a measure to condemn socialism. The vote is still being tabulated. But of note, the 4 leading Democrats in the House voted with Republicans to condemn socialism. Yet 96 Democrats voted no. Mm-hmm. So those are the Democrats who voted with Republicans, Jeffries and Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar and Ted Lieu. So that vote is in, and the big meeting happens in a couple hours, White House, with the Democratic Socialists out of New York meeting with President Trump today.
Oh boy, we got him now. This is huge. Republicans condemn socialism. Wow, that is brave. That is edgy stuff. Wow. They condemn socialism? Incredible. Did you guys hear that? They condemn socialism. I mean, that's going to fix some problems. That's going to fix some big problems that we have. So they wrote on a piece of paper, "I condemn socialism," and then they voted that they agreed with the thing they wrote on the paper. This changes everything. Everything has changed. They wrote something down and said, "We don't like this thing." And then they all said, I agree with the thing we wrote. Wow. Thank you so much. Someone needs to applaud that, because I am. Now, I thought, here's what I've been thinking this whole time. The Republicans, we gave them control of the legislative branch. They have not done anything with it. They have not done anything. That's what I thought. But then they condemned socialism. Oh, and it's really clever, too. Did you see it? Because, really, people that are defending this, some people say it's a waste of time. Other people have defended it and said, well, but the good thing is that we forced Democrats to vote on it, too. And some of them refuse to condemn socialism. That's going to change everything. Oh, we just revealed something we didn't already know about them, didn't we? I don't know. This piece of paper that you guys wrote is it's the greatest piece of paper in American history. It's greater. Declaration of Independence is nothing compared to this. Frame it, put it in the Smithsonian, put a little plaque next to it. Here's the piece of paper where Republicans condemn socialism. The world changed forever on this day. Because, like I said, I thought Republican legislators had completely failed to do anything with the power that we had given them. I thought we handed them power over every branch of government, actually. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, well, you guys have not passed any laws to solve any of the many problems that we have. You haven't done anything at all. What have you done? But then they condemn socialism. So, man. Great. Anyway. No, actually, I'm being a little subtle about it. I wield sarcasm in a very subtle way. You could hardly notice it. It's very imperceptible. But I will say that I'm actually not impressed at all. And keep in mind that all of these same Republicans, or most of them, voted just a week before that to fully fund the SNAP program. So this is the Republican Party in a nutshell, right? You vote to fund a massive, fraudulent, corrupt wealth redistribution scheme that actively harms millions of American taxpayers. And then 5 seconds later, you vote to condemn socialism. So you're funding the socialism, which this is wealth redistribution, billions of dollars worth of it. It's hurting Americans. It's corrupt. It's wrong. It's evil. It's immoral. Everybody knows it. Fraud is rampant through the whole system. We've talked about this. And Republicans voted for that. Again. Just like they always do. And they turn around and say, yeah, but we condemn socialism. You're actively working to promote and fund these socialist schemes while also casting totally meaningless symbolic votes condemning socialism. We don't care about the symbolic statements, guys. We don't give a about your symbolic statements. We have real problems in this country, and your symbolic statements accomplish nothing. We don't care about that. You're there for a reason, to actually do a job. But trying to, let's say, for example, defund SNAP. I mean, there's a lot of other things that need to be done, but just that alone, that's really hard. I mean, that's a big fight. How could you do that? It's risky politically. It's very risky. Well, yeah, but that's what you're there to do. Okay, that's why we voted for you. If you didn't want to do the hard things, then you should have said that when you ran for office, all of you. When you run for office, just be honest and say, hey, look, elect me and I'll do some symbolic stuff, and we'll do a few things that will play well on Fox News, but we're not going to do anything difficult because, let's be honest, we don't want to put our own political careers in jeopardy. Yes, please vote for me to do the easiest things the whole time. Vote for me and I'll give you nothing but low-hanging fruit for my entire term. At least say that. At least be honest. Is anyone impressed at this point? Even on Fox, even the Fox News audience, are any of them impressed? I'd be shocked if there's a single person in the audience right now that hears about Republicans condemning socialism and is at all impressed with it. What do they expect? Do they expect that all of us would hear that and just be blown away by the courage they've shown? Maybe they did. I don't know. Let's see. Let's step outside of politics for a moment. Here's a story. This is people.com. Former Alabama Teacher of the Year Randy Nicole Jackson Staples has been arrested after a viral video purports to show her allegedly beating her son with a belt. Staples, 44, resident of Grand Bay, Alabama, was arrested and charged with willful child abuse of a child under the age of 18 on November 16th. The arrest came after a video went viral, which appears to show Staples beating her 12-year-old son with a belt. She was released from jail. And Jackson Staples, 24, her oldest son, told the outlet that he received the video from one of his siblings, and then he posted the alleged video online. So this is a Teacher of the Year, quote unquote, who's arrested for child abuse, which I think makes it a story in and of itself. This is the quality of teacher we have now. No surprise, really. And, I saw this video. I didn't seek it out. It just popped up in my feed. And it's, as we just saw, it's a video taken, I guess, by another child given to the older son who then posted it. And I'm not going to play the video here because I probably can't even play it on YouTube, but and I'm not going to play it. It's very upsetting, but that's what happens in the video. She is beating a child with a belt, screaming in his face, beats him many times, like 10, 15, 20 times, and picks him up by the hair at one point in the video and is just like screaming at him, beats him, and all that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is the reaction to the video. And from what I saw, the majority of people certainly had the appropriate reaction, which is horror and outrage. When you see a child being physically abused, you should be horrified and outraged. And that's how the majority of people seem to be reacting to it. But I did see a number of comments, and not a small number, a sizable number, defending the mother. And again, just to reiterate, and you can go see the video yourself if you want online. I don't think you need to. but she's whipping him with a belt many times, grabbing him by the hair, okay, screaming, enraged. And there were people defending it, saying, hey, this is old school discipline. This is how it was done back in the day. This is how I was raised, and I turned out fine. Right, that kind of thing. There was like a lot of that kind of thing. And that sparked sort of a debate about the appropriate ways to discipline a child, and I think it's worth chiming in on that. So let me just say this. I'm not against it, and usually this kind of conversation, it always boils down to, well, is spanking your child right or wrong? It's like, that's not the conversation. I'm not against corporal punishment in principle. I think spanking can be an effective form of discipline in some circumstances. But here's the point, which I would hope is obvious. Whatever discipline you impose on a child, it should be done in a calm and measured way. And everybody yells sometimes. No parent is perfect. I've definitely been guilty of yelling, no doubt about that. Every parent has. But if you're taking your anger out on a child physically, that's abuse. If you are, quote unquote, disciplining your child by being wildly undisciplined yourself and venting your anger as you physically strike them because you're mad, that's abuse, period. That's what abuse is, every time. And if that's how you were raised, because you always see these comments on this, I was raised like this and I turned out fine. Well, okay, then you were abused. I mean, if you were raised by a mother or a father who would take out their anger on you physically, scream and yell and wail on you with a hand or a belt, then you were abused. And of course, well, I turned out fine. Did you? You probably didn't. Everyone always thinks they turned out fine, but a lot of us from the outside can see that, I don't know, your life is actually not that fine. I don't know. There's a lot of things about you that don't seem too fine to me. But if that's what you went through, then you grew up in an abusive household. That's what abuse is by definition. And that's what you see in this video. A woman who was totally out of control, infuriated, trying to inflict as much damage as she can, not for the sake of discipline, but for the sake of venting her frustrations. Okay, when you react away to a child because you're mad at them and you're just trying to hurt them because you're mad, obviously that's abuse. And what kind of boggles my mind about the people who defend this sort of thing is that we would never accept our children hitting other children out of anger, okay? We don't accept adults venting their frustrations and their anger by hitting other adults. Yet if an adult hits a child out of anger, then it's okay. So the only context where venting your anger by physically hurting somebody is okay is when a parent does it to a kid. Wouldn't that be actually the worst form of it? Isn't that worse than all the other forms? If you're really mad and you want to hit someone, I would prefer you hit an adult. If you got to hit, don't hit anybody, but I would prefer that. That to me seems better, though still not good. There's a general principle here which every parent should always have at the front of their minds, and the principle is this: that you cannot expect your child to exhibit any trait that you have not demonstrated for them. And you can't be angry at them for exhibiting any trait that you have demonstrated for them. And it really is that simple. And again, this is not me putting myself on a pedestal saying I'm a perfect parent. This is a principle. No one follows it perfectly. It's hard to follow perfectly. It's not hard to refrain, I would hope, from grabbing your child by the hair and beating them mercilessly because you're mad. That should be an easy thing to not do, okay? But in general, this general principle is not, no one is going to bat 1,000 with it. But if you want your child to have self-control and discipline, you have to exhibit that. And you always see these parents who have never exhibited that for their kids, ever. Have never exhibited self-control, have never exhibited discipline. And then they get mad when their kid doesn't exhibit the same. How are they going to? You didn't show them what that means. I mean, you can't just yell at them, be self-controlled, be disciplined. It doesn't work that way. The kid is looking at you like, what do you mean? I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. How do I do that? I don't know how to do that. You got to show me. Mom, you got to show me, Dad. And if you don't show them, then you can't expect them to exhibit it. Yeah, and this is also why, because you'll often hear it said that, in fact, I saw this said a lot in reaction to this video that, it's old school, and hey, you only got to do that once. You do it one time, and that kid will be whipped into shape, right? You only got to do it once. Well, it's like, but that's not how it works, though, is it? First of all. I mean, the parents that are in the habit of like they get mad and they start hitting their kid, it's not just once. And even if it was once, it's still not okay. But it's not just once. And it's also not true that the kids then start acting well-behaved magically. In fact, go to the inner city sometime, okay? And the dad's not in the picture, but there's a mom at home. And I can pretty much guarantee you that those kids, all of them, like take any random kid, any gangbanger, any kid that's dealing drugs on the corner, they all get beat at home. All of them. How's that working? Oh, it's only one time and they'll be a straight A student. Oh, really? Because it works exactly the opposite of that in real life. In real life, the exact opposite is what actually happens. Why is that? Well, because you're demonstrating a lack of self-control. You're demonstrating a lack of discipline in your home. And so your kids are going to do the same thing. If you don't want your child to act a certain way, then you cannot act that way around them because they're going to pick up the cues from you. It is absurd to be angry at your child for doing things that you do. It's actually ridiculous, which is why, really being angry at your kid ever is silly. I've been angry at my kids plenty of times. So it still happens, but if you could take a step back, and it does help me sometimes when I get really frustrated or angry with something my kids are doing, which happens, but I can take a step back. If I can get myself to do that, just take a step back and think about this, I realize that, okay, it's not that I should let them get away with it. If they do something wrong, they got to be disciplined, got to enforce the rules for sure. But for me to get actively angry doesn't really make any sense because my kids have never done anything that I didn't do when I was a kid and that in some cases I don't do now. The other day I came into one of my kids' rooms and their closet was a huge unorganized mess. Like they had been cleaning by just shoving things in the closet, as kids do. And I tried to open the closet to get something and it was like a cartoon where all the stuff falls out, on top of you like an avalanche. And I got really frustrated, as a parent you do. But I also realized that, okay, well, I did the exact same thing when I was a kid and I do that now. I still do that as a parent, as an adult. If you go to the closet in my room right now, it's the same thing. I do the exact same thing. And does that mean that I told my kid, oh, well, it's okay. You can keep your closet however you want? No, of course not, because you still have to enforce the rules. But it takes you down a bit. It takes the temperature down a little bit when you realize that, okay, I have no room to be angry about this, obviously. But it's also not okay. So we got to fix it. But we're going to fix it you need to fix it. But we're going to approach it in a calm way, in a calm, measured, self-controlled, disciplined way. Stern, but not out of control. If you're out of control, then your kids will be out of control. And it's really that simple. So that's my parenting sermon for the day. We all know costs keep going up, groceries, gas, subscriptions, you name it. We're at a point where we assume everything is going to be really expensive. Case in point, 72% of Americans overestimate what life insurance really costs. Turns out it might be more affordable than you think. Policy Genius makes finding and buying life insurance fast, easy, and surprisingly affordable. So if something happens to you, your loved ones have a financial safety net. With Policy Genius, real users have gotten 20-year, $2 million policies for just $53 a month. Looking for life insurance can feel overwhelming, but Policy Genius makes it straightforward. They let you compare quotes from top insurers in just a few clicks, so you can find coverage that actually fits your needs and your budget. What really sets them apart is their team of licensed agents who walk you through everything step by step, answering questions, handling the paperwork, advocating for you throughout the process. They lay out all your options clearly with coverage amounts, prices, and terms right in front of you. No guesswork, just clarity. And since life insurance is such an important part of financial planning, it helps that Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace with thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from people who found exactly what they needed. Secure your family's future with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/Walsh to compare life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Walsh. If you've been waiting for Daily Wire Plus to drop their best deal of the year before you join, I have good news. The wait is over. Right now, Daily Wire Plus annual memberships are 50% off during our Black Friday sale. We do it every year, one time a year, but this year, Daily Wire Plus members get more than ever. That includes the long-awaited 7-part epic series, The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, premiering January 22nd. All Access members get it early with episodes 1 and 2 streaming Christmas Day. Pay half the price and get everything from Daily Wire Plus for an entire year. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe and join now. Well, if you've ever seen the John Carpenter movie called They Live, you probably remember the pair of sunglasses that are discovered by the hobo main character. Once he puts these sunglasses on, the hobo realizes that an awful lot of people who appear to be human on the outside are in reality bug-eyed aliens. And without giving the movie away, needless to say, this revelation really changes the hobo's perspective on the world. Nothing's really the same after that. And over the weekend, courtesy of the social media platform X, the conservative movement in this country had kind of a they live moment. Rather abruptly, for every single account on the platform, X began disclosing the country where the account is based in, meaning where the person has been posting from. And additionally, X will tell you the region where the user downloaded the X app. So if X detects that the poster is using a VPN to hide location information, it will alert you to that possibility as well. But in general, these 2 data points have been sufficient to reveal most people's general location. And as a result, in just a matter of hours, we've learned conclusively where not all, but a significant amount of the division on the right and really in the culture generally has been coming from over the past year. And a lot of it has not been coming from Americans. It has come, much of it, from foreigners posing as American citizens, from foreigners posing as Native Americans, from foreigners posing as Republicans, from foreigners posing as Democrats. In short, the division has been coming from foreigners. And the scale of this propaganda campaign is so large that it should be the single biggest news story in the country right now. At the very least, it deserves 10 times more media hyperventilating than everyone else and everything else they're talking about. Like, this is nothing like the fake accusations of Russian meddling in the 2016 election, where Russia supposedly spent $50,000 on Facebook memes that nobody saw or cared about. Okay, this is not that. We're talking about a genuine intrusion by foreigners into everyday American political discourse for the clear purpose of dividing and distracting us from our own country. And now that these frauds have been exposed, they've been melting down to great comedic effect in many cases. So we'll start with an account called Israel Exposed, which, as the name implies, is fixated on the state of Israel. This is a big account. It has nearly 200,000 followers. This is another thing, is a lot of these accounts have a lot of followers. These are big accounts. And to give you just one example of the kind of content this guy is putting out, he posted this reply just a month ago in response to a random person who criticized him. He said, quote, "You are a Zionist pretending to be an American patriot. We should deport you." This is a common attack line, which you'll see all over the place. Part of a constant, relentless effort to make Israel the subject of every discussion on the right. Everything has to go back to Israel. Everything all the time. It always comes down to Israel for certain people on the right. As we talked about last week, it's Israel first, just from the other direction. And what they'll say sometimes, is if you don't criticize Israel 24/7 like they do, if you don't make everything about Israel all the time, then you're not patriotic. You're not sufficiently America first. If you're not thinking all the time, every day, every hour, every moment of the day about another country, which is Israel, then you're not America first. Being America first means being focused entirely on another country. That's what these people would say. And according to, at least this one account, you should be deported if you are not that focused on it. Well, this account, of course, has also gone after me several times and hasn't been particularly effective. Just a few days ago, for example, I pointed out that Muslims are killing Christians and generally have animosity towards Christians and have for, about 1,400 years or so. Specifically, I wrote that, quote, Muslims have been killing Christians for 1,400 years. They're killing Christians across the world right now as we speak. Islamic countries are also flooding our country with immigrants who hate us. Of course, that's true. But here's what Israel Exposed wrote in response, quote, this is some Zionist propaganda. Israel is the problem. So, just more brain-dead nonsense. The millennia-long conflict between Islam and Christianity, I will tell you, has nothing to do with the country of Israel established in 1948. But this is the kind of slop that's polluted right-wing discourse for a long time, and that's all that this account does. And over the weekend, we learned where this account is from. As you can see there, he actually is based in Saudi Arabia. Yes, the account that was threatening to deport an American citizen used the word we to talk about Americans, is not even American, right? He's a foreign agitator posing as an American in an effort to destroy political discourse in this country. Now, multiply this account by about 10,000, and you begin to see the scale of the problem. So here's another example. This is a post from an account called Native American Soul, and it depicts a woman pretending to be, extending a middle finger in front of Mount Rushmore, along with the message, "You're on looted land." Well, it's pretty inflammatory, but the kind of thing we're used to seeing. Pretty aggressive message. But actually, that's not the remarkable thing about this post. The really amazing thing is that this particular Native American is, we just found out, posting from Bangladesh. Yes, we have the world's first Bangladeshi Native American. Glass ceiling has been broken. At this point, I'm starting to wonder if that woman was ever really in front of Mount Rushmore. Or is she even a real person? Of course, she's not. And as it turns out, there are many, many allegedly Native American accounts that are also from Bangladesh. This is a whole cottage industry over there. This is very, very common. Here's another one. This one's called Native American Pride. And then there's Native American Culture, which publicly lists its location as Indianapolis. But in reality, they are also from Bangladesh. And here's one of their recent posts, quote, "In the smoke of ancient pipes, our ancestors whispered to the winds. From the northern lakes where the eagle soars to the southern rivers where the jaguar prowls, this red earth has always been our heartbeat. It is all native land." Now, presumably, the primary intent of many accounts like this is to farm engagement and sell merchandise. But it would be difficult it would not be difficult to imagine that that foreign governments are heavily involved here as well. Of course they are. And either way, we're going to need an option to block or mute all accounts from outside of America. I mean, that's the next step here. We should be able to block or mute based on region and country. And honestly, that should probably be the default option at this point. The slop is so far out of control that just something needs to be done. Take the account Mahmoud Gaza, for example. A few days ago, he wrote, quote, "All I hear now is F-35 and intense bombs south." Got hundreds of thousands of views for reporting on the brutality of an Israeli bombing raid. But it turns out that Mahmoud, despite its handle, is not in fact based in Gaza. Big shock there. As you can see, he's really thousands of miles away in Poland. Dealing with those Israeli bombing raids in Poland, apparently. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Turns out that for a while, BBC has been citing someone named Motassim A. Dalul, claims to be a journalist in Gaza. Here's one example of the BBC's coverage, which you can see. Quote, Motassim Dalul, a journalist in Gaza City, told the BBC he had seen and heard multiple Israeli airstrikes there on Thursday. From time to time, there are fighter jets which carry out attacks and destroy homes and other facilities, he said. And indeed, you can see why the BBC would find this guy to be pretty compelling. Seems to document a lot of really awful examples of war crimes as part of his job as a journalist in Gaza. For example, in October, he posted this viral tweet, which you can see, quote, "Israeli occupation forces left booby-trapped toys behind them in Gaza. Why all of this hate for Palestinian children?" Now, in recent days, he's also claimed that children are trembling in Gaza because it's apparently freezing in their tents, even though Gaza is actually relatively warm right now. But in retrospect, it makes sense why he would say that it's cold. And can you guess why? Well, yes, it turns out that Motassim Dalul is actually based in Poland, which is indeed cold this time of year. This is someone the BBC has been citing as an authoritative source on the ground. It's someone who's been taken seriously by leftists as an eyewitness to atrocities, and he's a liar. And there are many, many more accounts like this. Far too many to list. To give one more example, an account called Naila Ayad, which has nearly 100,000 followers, recently posted the question, does Zionism control the world? And the account's public location is the United States, which again you can see. But over the weekend, X revealed that he's actually in the Netherlands. And meanwhile, another large account that posts similar messages called Tiberius Files has 180,000 followers. Turns out he's posting from Thailand, not the US. The account MAGA Nation, with nearly 500,000 followers, is based in Eastern Europe. There are a number of other MAGA accounts that are not based in the US. Actually, there's a lot of them. You can just type MAGA into X, the search bar, and just go down the list, and you're going to find a lot that are not from here, including a bunch of accounts like this one, Ivanka Trump News, which has 1 million followers and is based in, it turns out, Nigeria. So you can get your Ivanka Trump News from Nigeria. This is an endemic problem, and now that it's being exposed, some of these foreigners are not taking it too well. Consider the account Garbage Human. This is another slop account that doesn't post anything relevant or interesting or valuable at all, as you could guess based on the name of the account. But it is someone who posts obsessively about American politics and American culture. He's also been attacking me a lot lately. This is part of the engagement farming shtick, is you go after accounts that are bigger than you because you want to get their engagement. You have nothing to offer, just kind of leech, like a parasite, just leeching off of someone. And of course, by acknowledging it right now, sort of giving him what he wants, I understand that. But that unfortunately is a necessary evil in order to expose the extent to which foreigners are intruding in our national conversation. Well, it turns out this guy is actually from Australia. And this is one of the more embarrassing discoveries, which is really saying something, because Australia is falling apart. They don't even have free speech rights. They arrested Billboard Chris a few weeks ago for holding a sign in a public place. Their economy is declining. It's got a lot of problems. But instead of fixing his own country, this particular Australian is obsessing over the US. I mean, this is a guy who stays up all night so that he can post about America while Americans are awake, while doing nothing at all for his own country. It's another thing to keep in mind with these foreign accounts, and you see them posting slop all day. Well, if they're from like Australia, it means they just stay up all night. It means like this is some guy in a foreign country up at like 3 a.m, just obsessively engagement farming off of American politics and American culture. And there are many such cases. Now, it's important to understand that all these people want, excluding any government operatives that may be involved, what most of them want is attention. And they're realizing that now that they've been exposed as frauds, that no one's going to care what they have to say anymore. I mean, once you lie to your audience, you're done. It's really that simple. Presumably, that's why professional MAGA hunter Ron Smith, a relatively large account, just left X entirely, deleted his whole account after X revealed that he's actually from Kenya, a country that, among its many faults, doesn't have a lot of MAGA supporters. Meanwhile, over in Saudi Arabia, the account known as Proud Black Conservative is still going strong. They have not left in shame. This is someone who, based on his profile picture and bio, doesn't seem like the typical resident of Saudi Arabia, especially when you see God Bless America, American flag right there in the bio. But indeed, as you can see there, he's from the Middle East. Just another black MAGA guy in the Middle East posting slop day in and day out. Although, strangely enough, he stopped posting his slop ever since this weekend. So we'll see what happens there. And we're going to see a lot more of this as the grift continues to dry up. And that means we have a real opportunity here to refocus our conversation on issues that matter to Americans instead of angry foreigners. But just for my own purposes, it's been eye-opening to click on the accounts of people who are attempting to troll me and seeing which third world hellhole they come from. Some of my most dedicated trolls are in fact, I had some in mind. As soon as this went live, I'm like, okay, here's a few I'm going to check right away. Almost every single one, not from America. What do you know? This guy, for example, was telling me to get back to work from Paraguay. It's almost too pathetic to even comprehend. I mean, imagine if I decided to devote a single second of my day to fighting with a podcaster in Paraguay. I can't imagine doing that. Being so invested in another country that I'm getting into arguments with their podcasters in that country. I'd have to jettison every ounce of self-respect I ever had to even comprehend the idea of obsessively attacking a foreign podcaster. But for these people, it comes naturally. In other news, we did finally learn where the Church of Satan is based. And no big surprise there. For many years, the Church of Satan has been operating in an undisclosed location, presumably one of the circles of hell. But now we have a more precise location. It turns out that they're actually based in Canada. So, no big surprise. Now, having run down this very incomplete, non-exhaustive list of foreign influence ops on X, I know I'm going to get more angry messages from these foreigners who are furious that they've been outed and just very upset to be accused of being non-Americans, which they are. So let me save you all some time. And here's my message to all of you who are crying in my mentions right now. Here's the thing. Because we're not saying that I keep getting this response from these foreigners saying, well, what are you saying? We have no right to, so what, we can't give our opinion about, you can give your opinion. You can give your opinion all you want. But we don't care. Okay, because most of the debates that we have on social media are about American politics and American culture. And we don't care what some random guy in the Philippines or wherever has to say about those subjects any more than he would care what we have to say about the internal disputes in his country. Okay, if you're a foreigner, I'm sure you have a lot of great opinions about the stuff happening in your own country. Talk about that all you want. But the debates in and about America are for Americans. If you are not from this country, we don't care what you think about American politics. We don't care what you think about American culture. We don't care what you think about American elections. Why would we? You have no skin in the game here. You have nothing invested in it. You're not from here. You don't live here. Nothing that happens here affects you. And this actually matters. It's not just annoying that so many foreigners are butting into the conversation. It's actively harmful. And the reason is that we cannot have a coherent or productive political debate if that debate includes a whole bunch of random foreigners from all across the world who have no stake in this country, no skin in the game, no firsthand knowledge of our culture at all. And that's why it's very important to identify the foreign intruders and bully them mercilessly until they shut up and leave us alone. We cannot talk about or fix any of our problems when we've got a mob of foreigners constantly barging into the conversation. So mind your own business. Okay? Focus on your own problems. Your grift is over. It's that simple. And that is why all of the foreigners posing as Americans on social media, all the many, many thousands of them, are today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
President Trump mogs Mamdani at the White House, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigns from Congress, and Elon Musk reveals all of the foreigners influencing our politics. Check it out on The Michael Knowles Show.